The Right to be Forgotten by Olivia Marin. Have you ever Googled yourself? Typed your name into Google and then read all of the search results? If you haven't, give it a shot. If you have, you fall into one of three categories. 1, nothing but good, you're an angel. There are maybe articles written about you in a local newspaper where you are doing great things, or you finished a marathon and that's what comes up when we Google yourself. Whatever it is, it's good, you're happy. Option 2, nothing. You do not exist on the internet. You don't have an Instagram, you're not on Facebook, you're not on Twitter, you just don't have an internet presence. And that's fine. Or option number 3, the bad. Maybe it's a time you had a little too much to drink and you took some silly pictures, or that bikini you posed in that wasn't such a great idea, or worse, that terrible tweet you wrote at 2 a.m. At any rate, you probably wish you could take all those things and delete them. Well, should you have the right to? And that's an interesting question that poses us against two important ideas. One is the public freedom of information, and the other is the individual's right to privacy. And how do we balance those two rights on the internet? Well, let's go back to some history and see why we're talking about the right to be forgotten. Way back in 1998, this guy named Mario Gonzalez from Spain had a little bit of financial problems. And he ended up having his house repossessed and sold by the bank. And an article about this came out in his local newspaper and then was posted online. Fast forward 20 years later, when you Google Mario Gonzalez, that article comes up right away. He owes money. Mario wasn't happy about this. So he kindly asked the newspaper to take down the article. And they said no. So he did the next logical thing and he sued Google. And this wound its way through the courts all the way up to the EU court, and he won. He won the right to have that information about him de-linked. He was a happy man, but what does de-linked actually mean? Well, we're going to take a little analogy to figure out what it is, because it's not deleted. So imagine you're in a library and you wanted to look for a book. And normally you would go to the library computer, type in the book, and it would give you where it is. But if it's been de-linked, there will be no location. But that's not to say you can't walk up to the exact right stack and find that library. It's de-linked, but not deleted. So if you are an EU citizen, you should be happy to know that you have the right to be forgotten. That is, you can write Google, you can request anything to be taken down about you as long as it is irrelevant or not public record or stolen and modified and about you. This is all thanks to the GDPR, the European answer to what we should do with data online. Now, we still do have to think about this public freedom of information versus individual privacy, and for instance, what should we do if someone is a politician? Should we allow them to have a maybe not so great photo of a Halloween costume taken down? We think no. But why don't we try to think of an example where we would say yes? Imagine person A. Person A has just graduated and has decided to celebrate with a bunch of beer. And he's got some friends around and the night goes in a weird direction, and now there are photos of him all over the internet doing things worse than just throwing up. He can't get rid of those. He writes his application to med school and is rejected based on a morality clause. Should person A have the right to delete those photos of himself and just have the good about him on the internet? I think maybe yes. And what about you as a Canadian? Is there something in the Canadian law that gives us the right? Well, if you go and check out the OPC, that is the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, they do have some draft legislation which is especially important for youth. That's right. Anyone who's got pictures their parents put up on them can ask for them to be taken down. Organizations that put up your photo, even yourself. At the age of majority, you get a clean slate. The idea is to give youth a second chance in Canada, but it's still just in draft form. So what are some important takeaways? Well, the internet will never forget. De-linked is not deleted. It's there forever. So curate. Think before you post. And check. Google yourself on the regular. See what is about you. And advocate. Try to help us make that draft legislation become law, because we should all have the right to be forgotten.